Sequels. They can either be a hit or a miss. Sequels tend to have a bad reputation, from them not staying true to the original or them just being bad. But nevertheless, when a sequel hits, it hits. This not only craves your hunger to have more sequels, also makes you forget about the original, just because of how good the sequel was. When making a sequel, whether it be a game or a movie, the directors always have to keep this in mind. Take the original and times it by 10. Okay, take John Wick for a second. The reason why people love every release is because of its action and how it elevates each time. If you look at the first John Wick, you'd see how grounded and realistic the action is. But after the first installment, it does a full 180 and started implementing goofy kills, whether it be by a book, a pencil, or a horse. The charm of these movies is to see how John uses his surroundings to kill people. I guarantee you, if the series had remained the same as the first one, it wouldn't be as popular. But since it takes a spin on its own theme, people love it. Oh, and also Keanu Reeves is in it, so you can't really hate on it. But this video isn't about good sequels. No, it's about bad sequels. Kind of. And a particular game. That game being... Now, before I talk about the second game, I want to first talk about how amazing the original was. Dying Light 1 was released in the great year of 2015. Zombie games around that time were getting really stale. They did all the same thing, grab this huge hammer and smash some zombies' brains open. There was no real sense of threat or danger. The only thing that comes to mind of an enjoyable zombie game was Left 4 Dead. It was enjoyable but also dangerous. You had different zombies to worry about, not the same generic runny zombies. You had jockeys that would stun you, you had long-tongued zombies that would stun you, you had strong right-hand zombies, don't ask why, that would stun you. Actually, come to think of it, a bunch of these guys would just stun you. But you get the point. A lot of zombie games were getting really stale and half of them were pretty much dead. See what I did there? I said dead and I'm talking about zombie game. You get it? Until Dying Light was released. It was a unique take on the zombie genre. The combat, the parkour, the gore, the gameplay, the story, everything it did was unique. I want to first talk about its story. Now, I know it's not the greatest, and a lot of people criticize it for being bland and super generic, but it felt alive, at least compared to the second game. It actually felt like people were struggling to fight against this virus that they didn't understand. They were desperate doing late night runs just to get some antigens, being desperate and trying to leave the city, or just buying fake antigens and trying to live. It felt alive, something the second game kind of struggled to do. The next thing I want to talk about is its gameplay. The combat is amazing. Every slice, every blunt, every headshot, every grenade, every takedown. This meshes in so beautifully to create a dopamine hit every time. Every weapon feels unique. A knife to a heavy hammer, a katana to a sword, a pistol to a shotgun. And it doesn't help when you can sometimes combo these moves. Needless to say, you'll never get bored chopping or bashing at your enemies' heads open. Speaking of enemies, let's see who you go up against. You got your slow zombie, then you got your fast zombie, then you got every zombie you can expect. You got your spitters, heavy dudes, hammer dudes, zombies that get scared of you, screamers, hazmat dudes, explodey dudes. Oh, and I almost forgot, you got your yeah, let's talk about these guys later into the video. So you can't tell me it's not unique enough, because this roster is enough to satisfy any man. The next is the thing that made Dying Light stick out from the rest of the zombie games, at least for me. And that is the day and night. Dying Light has a day and night cycle. Now, I know what you might be thinking. How is that unique? Every game has done that before Dying Light. Well, true, but it's the way Techland decided to go with it. During the day, you can do whatever you want. Loot, hunt, kill, side quests, parkour, 1v1 against the goon. You name it, you can do it. But when night falls, I love this. Not only does the game do a complete 180, it also has this amazing atmosphere of dread and unease. Why is that? Well, because one, you can't see shit. Damn, son, where my flashlight at? The second is the volatiles. There's a reason why these guys are fan favorites and iconic. Not only do they run as fast as a player, if not faster, not only do they show up at nighttime only, not only do they have a special pounce attack, they are mostly, absolutely terrifying. Once they start chasing you, it's on sight for them. Those heavy footsteps you hear when they get close to you, their growls, the screeching, their design, just works so well to create something terrifying. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the parkour. Now, there's quite a lot of things to be said here. Even though the parkour is unique at first, later in the game it just feels like climbing ledges and over railing simulator. Then more later down the line, it's just grappling hook simulator. Yeah, I don't know if I didn't invest the proper time into parkouring around Haran, but it just feels very basic to me. Not saying it's bad, it just feels basic. And that's about it for the first game. Now, I know there's quite a lot of stuff that I missed. Like the Falling DLC, skill trees, the mods on the weapons, the buggies, the Freak of Natures, the PvP mode. But I mainly wanted to compare the things that stood out for me from when I first played Dying Light 2. The first one being its visual style. The first game was gritty and dark. The second game is more vibrant and lighthearted. This is something I didn't really care about. It looks nice and feels nice to look at, but apparently some people had some problems with it, which I get. Coming from a game which had a sense of unease to it, it feels somewhat right to complain about it. But this is where my heavy criticism comes from. The enemies. Oh, look how they massacred my boy. The enemies went from these bloody, messy creatures to these bright colors, glowing veins, glowing spit. I don't know why they did this. And considering the fact that these enemies show up at nighttime only, they stand out like a sore thumb. I want to first talk about the virals from the first game and the second one. In the first game, if we're sticking to the lore, they are recently turned humans. That's why you still see somewhat fresh clothes and a resemblance of a human being in them. Even when you hit them, they beg for mercy, showing that they still have some humanity left in them. In Dying Light 2, Techland said, yeah, let's throw it all out the window and make these ashy, grey, older virals. And considering the fact that the volatiles are the same color, they tend to blend in with each other, being difficult to differentiate each of them. In general, the whole visual style just looks ugly. I'm gonna be honest here, this looks terrible. This does not look visually pleasing to look at.
I already know I had to do it for the culture. I got the McDonald's Sprite, boy.
Just the scenery looks good, but other than that, no, everything just looks ugly, and it's not that good. The next is the parkour. Now, the parkour has improved by a lot from Dying Light 1. Not only that, it changed the way some things used to be. In the first game, you get a grappling hook by a skill tree, and once you have it, well, there's no point in parkouring around. You can just aim at a spot and boom, you're there. No need for climbing or jumping, just one click and you're there. In the second game, it's a bit different. First, you get it by a story mission, so there's no need to be grinding out points for it. You just get it by playing the game normally. And wow, have they improved it.
No, I like it. This is brilliant. But I like this.
The grappling hook went from this Just Cause-esque grappling hook to swinging around like Spider-Man. Not only that, they took the piezo suit from the first game and actually made it a glider. Not only that, it makes traversing around the map faster. It's just fun to use, and you can combo it with some other parkour moves. The game takes what it did the first game and times it by 10. The next is the day and night. Now, I've said my case, and so did the community. The first game's night is terrifying. In the second game, however, yeah, this does not feel scary or anything. This just feels like daytime, but it's dark now. In the first game, it was pitch black. You literally had to rely on your flashlight to move around. In the second game, my eyes! Yeah, let's just put a huge moon over there and lighting up everything and not needing a flashlight. And it doesn't help when the enemies aren't doing anything as well. In the first game, volatiles were roaming everywhere. And when I mean everywhere, I mean everywhere. No spot was safe for you. You can literally run into a volatile at every corner. And it doesn't help when the same thing was done to the normal biters. Biters can turn into virals during nighttime and can initiate a chase. So truly, nowhere was safe. I highly recommend checking out Ozzy GG's video on this. He does a much better job at explaining it, so I recommend you check him out too. But my point still stands. The first game nighttime is better than the second game. It's just facts. The next is the story. Now, I said the first game story is good, but not great. The second game is not good. It's just bad. The whole story is Aiden trying to find his long lost sister, who he just remembers from when they were kids. That's it. Oh man. Yeah, there's no choosing sides, almost like in the first game. I know you can't make decisions, but it made you question at least to whether work with the GRE and continue the mission, or try and help the Haran survivors, well, survive. There's none of that in the second game, even if you cared about the survivors. Your sister just dies no matter what. The only thing that was good about the story in the second game was Hakon. But yeah, there's also this weird thing where Mia, your sister, isn't even your sister, or maybe she is. I don't know. I mean, Waltz, the main bad guy, even calls you his son. So I don't know what the hell is going on anymore. I mean, the story doesn't even revolve around the main thing about the game, the zombies or the infection. The main reason why it doesn't is because they already found a cure. That being just stand next to these UV lights. And that's it, you're done now. Go get your sister. I mean, hell, yeah, sure, they found a way to stop getting affected, but they could have improved this more. In the Dying to Know series Techland did before the release of Dying Light 2, they kept mentioning how these zombies aren't zombies, but humans who couldn't be saved. They don't talk down on the zombies, but rather treat them like humans. Why did they not expand on this? We all know Aiden is part volatile because of the experiments that were done on him as a kid. They could have had a story of these zombies possibly being the new life form. This could have been in Dying Light 2, but Aiden could have been the bridging gap to make the survivors realize that, hey, these guys ain't so bad. And to the infected, they could have brought back the sentient volatiles back, and Aiden being the only one to communicate with them. There could have been major choices whether if Aiden wanted to stay human or wants to side with the infected. Now, let's talk about the combat. The combat is good. Kind of. The best way to describe it is that you're just in a quick time event that you play out. Many of the hits or slashes or somewhat guns don't feel satisfying to use, but sometimes it can work out. I mean, okay, it improves on the flaws of the first game, like dealing with the human enemies. I don't think it's a secret anymore. Dealing with humans in the first game was annoying and not enjoyable, but in the second game it improves on a lot more, such as the dodge mechanic, where if you dodge at the right time you can stun an enemy, or a parry option, but that's about it. As I mentioned, many of the hits you do don't feel satisfying to do. The next is a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, like music. This is a tough choice. Both games' music is absolutely beautiful. You can tell they both have a different tone to them. Dying Light 1 is much more synthwave, electronic-like music. While Dying Light 2 is much more closer to Assassin's Creed-like music. Nothing really bad to say, they're both just good music. The next is the ambiance of each game. I prefer Dying Light 1 ambience than Dying Light 2's. When standing on a rooftop, you feel like you're actually standing on a rooftop. The wind is blowing profusely. You can see a slight wobbliness in your camera. You barely hear anything from below. But when you're down on the streets, you hear zombies growling, bottles and trash flying around. You barely hear any wind because it's being blocked by the buildings. This is how you create an amazing ambiance. Now, in Dying Light 2, yeah, this isn't that good. I just want to briefly talk about the progression of each game. In the first game, it was a grind to get to level 25 for both parkour and combat. In the second game, it's much more easier. Your progression shouldn't be a #1 priority every time you play the game. It should just progress in the background while you slay away. Quite frankly, there's a lot of things I want to talk about, but for the sake of this video not coming out next year, I'm just gonna compress it down to the simple things. Now, is Dying Light 2 a bad game? No, it's not. Far from it. It delivers on what they wanted you to get, which was a fun zombie parkour game. And it truly is. I mean, I already have almost 500 hours clocked in already, and that should pretty much explain everything. But it does not live up to the hype of Dying Light 1. The first game did so many things that were unique that it stood out from the rest. Dying Light 2 just falls into the generic open world games, and the only reason why it's still alive is because of its association with Dying Light 1. But again, it's not a bad game. The best way to describe it is Dying Light 1 is dynamic, where anything could happen at any moment, while Dying Light 2 is static, where you know what's gonna happen no matter what. And that's about it. Okay, wait, now I know you might be confused. I thought the game is good after the recent update. And you're right, it is. After the Bloody Guts and the Good Night Good Luck update, it pretty much just fixed 90% of my problems. But also some of my problems still remain, like the story and the visual style. But yeah, this video kind of took a long time to make. I don't really know why. I think I just kind of got lazy. But yeah, I don't really know how to end this video.